Dear friends, in this video I am going to discuss Wordsworth's very important poem Tintern Abbey. Actually, the full name given to this title is Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey on Revisiting the Banks of the Wye during a tour. It was first published in July 13, 1798. So the summary of this work: Wordsworth wrote this poem after a walking tour with his sister Dorothy in the Welsh borders. So in the first page you happen to see a small picture. So that is Tintern Abbey, an abandoned place where so many buildings were there, but now so it is not used and collapsed. So the description of his encounters with the countryside on the banks of the river Wye is beautifully given. As mentioned, so first it appeared in 1798 in the collection Lyrical Ballads. This poem entirely consists of 162 lines. It is written in blank verse, so no rhyme scheme will come. Another interesting fact is, since he is talking about his own experience, this can be called as a lyric. Even specific genre is meditative lyric. So Tintern Abbey can be considered as a lyric or meditative lyric in which he shares his own experiences of the past in to a particular place when he visited along with his sister Dorothy. Tintern Abbey from exam point of view is very important because repeatedly questions are asked in different state exams and net exam. Some immortal lines are there, so you have to be familiar with all the lines of this particular poem. And this poem is very important from romanticism point of view because it is said with the publication of lyrical ballads. So romanticism starts in England. Especially this poem consists of all the elements of romanticism which celebrates nature. First, let's enter into the poem. 5 years have passed, 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters. So here the poet says, or he conveys us, that he has come back to the particular place after 5 years. And again, I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs with a soft inland murmur. So he visits the place after 5 years and he is standing nearby the waterfalls. So that flows from the mountain. So with soft inland murmur. So when the water is just flowing, it makes noise. So the poet points out this as a murmur. Once again, do I behold these steep and lofty cliffs that on a wild secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion. Now he remembers, do I behold these steep, do I remember here that on a wild secluded scene, so wild, secluded, separate, isolated. So here he was very much impressed by the beautiful scene. So here when he is looking at the secluded place, suddenly he is thinking of the past also. Impressed thoughts of more deep seclusion. Of course, when he is with the nature, he is able to compare his seclusion with his deeper thought and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. So here when he comes here, he is able to listen to nature and he is able to see the landscape which is very quiet, and also the sky also witnesses all these things. So the first scene is just the description of the nature he witnesses after 5 years. When he comes after 5 years to the particular place, Tintern Abbey, he is able to see the beautiful forest, mountain, waterfall, landscape, and sky. So that forces him to go into the deeper recesses of his mind, that is gaps of his mind. The day is come when I again repose here under this dark sycamore. So sycamore is a kind of tree. So he just thinks after many years, that is 5 years, he has come here and he just still remember when he was sitting under the big dark sycamore tree and view these plots of cottage ground. I hope here the poet conveys that once there were beautiful cottages, the ground filled with houses, these orchard tufts. So here along with that there were orchard, so fruit grows. Then which at this season were there unripe fruits, especially the season in which he has visited. So at that time there will be only unripe fruits or clad in one green hue. So of course the unripe fruit including apple, they will not have their own color at that time. The color would have been only green and lose themselves mid groves and copses. So groves, the trees, fruit trees. Copses refers to a small group of trees, copses. So the poet says, when I used to come here, at that time I could see green color green colored fruits because they are not ripe. So they are just lose themselves. See, when you go nearby a mango tree, if the fruit has, if it has become fruit yellow, then you can spot it. But when they are green, it is very difficult to spot them. Like that, the poet says, it was like the fruits are hiding themselves amidst the green leaves, green trees. Once again, I see these hedgerows. Hedge refers to fence. Hedge refers to fence. These hedgerows, hardly hedgerows. So though they were fences, right? So here you can see in field, so there will be hedges. Hedge means the edge that marks the distinction between one place to another. It is not a complete fence, but fence made of small grass. So the poet says, say, hardly hedgerows. That is because it is not proper. Little lines of sporty wood run wild. So there are some edge of hedgerows, but it is not proper. It is going wild. That means it is not in the proper order. These pastoral forms, pastoral, village side, countryside, green to the very door, and wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees. Here, the poet points out a small industrialization that took place there. Earlier he pointed out there were houses, right? There were cottages. So he describes the entire place in such a way so that is filled with trees having green fruits. Here and there were houses and factories. So when there is house, naturally they will cook. So their smoke will be going up. So wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees. That is the influence of the houses over there. With some uncertain notice, as might seem, of vagrant dwellers. Vagrant means nomads, the people who do not have permanent housing. So some people who are not staying permanently there, they are there and cooking. That is the reason why the smoke is going up, of vagrant dwellers in the houseless woods or of some hermit's cave. whereby his fire the hermit sits alone. Sometimes, see, there are three kinds of people described. There are some cottages, people live there. There are some nomads. So nomads, the people who do not have any permanent house, they live there. And along with them, sometimes there are hermits, priests. So those who lead a life there alone, they live there, and nearby their cave, mostly such people live there in cave. So nearby them, in order to protect themselves from freezing cold, they have fire from which the smoke comes. They are warming themselves nearby those fire, uh, nearby the cave. So the second stanza talks about the beauty of groves and trees and unripe fruits, cottages, nomads and hermit, how they do live in the laps of nature. These beauteous forms. So he just concludes that, so these beauteous forms, so whatever we have discussed is beautiful. Though a long absence, through a long absence, have not been to me as in a landscape to a blind man's eye. So please make a note of it, as in a landscape to a blind man's eye. So it is a simile, open comparison. Through a long absence, for many years I did not come here, have not been to me as in a landscape to a blind man's eye. A man, if he does not have eyes, though the place is beautiful, he cannot enjoy. But off in lonely rooms and amid the din of towns and cities, I have woe to them in hours of weariness, sensations sweet. So here the poet points out a beautiful thing. For a blind man, the beauty of nature is nothing. Like that, a man, so he compares himself, I did not visit here for 5 years. At the same time, I did not forget nature. Whenever I felt alone in the room, whenever I was alone in the room, and amid the din of towns and cities, amidst the towns and cities, then in hours of weariness, sensation sweet felt in the blood. So whenever I felt sad, sensations at that time, beautiful sensations were given by the thoughts about nature. I hope you get the point here. So like a blind man to nature, I did not suffer, because whenever I had problem in the city, I would just recall the past, the beauty of nature that gave me strength and felt along the heart, and passing even into my purer mind with tranquil restoration. So whenever I thought of this place with beautiful recollection, that gave me tranquil, just calm nature with tranquil restoration. My mind was restored. My mind was at peace whenever I was thinking of nature, especially this place. Feelings too of unremembered pleasure, such perhaps as have no slight or trivial influence on the best portion of a good man's life. Of course, a man's life can be influenced by the goodness of nature. His little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. Nor less I trust to them I may have vowed another gift of aspect more sublime. So he says that whenever I had problem, whenever I was alone, I was thinking of nature that gave me strength, happiness and peaceful nature. Then he says that elevated my thought, nor less I trust to them. So I trust the recollection, that is nature. I may have vowed another gift. So I had another gift also. What is that? Of aspect more sublime, divine, something great. that blessed mood that kept me with the blessed mood of happiness, in which the burden of the mystery, in which the heavy and the weary wait. Please make a note of it. So this repetition is called as anaphora. This repetition of same phrase in the successive clauses. So that is anaphora, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened. The poet says the burden of this unintelligible world was lightened by the thought of nature. That serene means divine, calm, that serene and blessed mood, right, in which the affections gently lead us on until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended. So when I was thinking of nature, I was calm, serene, he says. When you enter the church, it will be serene, calm. Calmness with holiness, right? Until the breath of this corporeal frame. Corporeal means here it refers to our body. So how it was calm, until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended. How much happiness and stillness it gave when I was thinking of the nature. It was almost my human blood was suspended, stopped. Even I cannot hear my own heartbeat. We are laid asleep in body and become a living soul. It is a beautiful expression by the poet. We are laid when we are thinking of nature. We are laid asleep, so we become calm. We almost sleeping in body. We are sleeping in body, but our soul is awake and become a living soul. While with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy we see into the life of things. What you see, the entire stanza is talking about the gifts that we can receive from nature. It gives you happiness amidst problem. So it makes you calm. Even we go asleep in body, but our soul is awake, right? So here it has the power, right? Power of harmony, so that is a unification, everything in order, and the deep power of joy. We can feel the real joy we see into the life of things. Whatever we see, from that we can get the happiness. If this be but a vain belief, yet how oft in darkness and amid the many shapes of joyless daylight, when the fretful stare unprofitable. Fretful refers to, so that is with some fretting, with tensed. So stare, so just amidst so many problem. So in the daylight, when we live in this world, problem is unavoidable. And the fever of the world, so the fever of the world refers to the problem of the world, have hung upon the beatings of my heart. Of course, the poet says, whenever the day breaks, my heart is filled with the problems of the world, the problems that I have to face in this world. How oft in spirit have I turned to thee, O sylvan why? So here there is a poetic device called apostrophe, right? APOSTROPHE. Apostrophe means in poetry, if someone is addressed, oh my dear friend, oh my dear sister, oh Sylvan historian, right? Word on a Grecian noun comes, So when we address someone or something in a poem, that can be called as apostrophe. Though wanderer through the woods, how often has my spirit turned to thee? The poet says, I had so many problems in living in this world. So whenever I had great problem, I turned to thee only. That is, I turned to you, Sylvan Wine. A sylvan refers to forest, right? So why river? So whenever I had problem, in order to alleviate my problem, in order to come out of that problem, dear nature and river, why I turn to you only. You gave me the happiness, you gave me the peace, and you elevated my spirit. And now, with gleams of half extinguished thought, half extinguished because after many years of the visit, his thoughts are not complete. So you know the meaning of the word extinguish, fire extinguisher. So just my thoughts are stopped or reduced with many recognition, but I remember only in bits and pieces, dim and faint and somewhat of a sad perplexity. Whenever I think I am not able to recall everything perfectly, I am a little bit confused, also sad. The picture of the mind revives again at the same time. Though I recall things in bits and pieces, so my mind is revived. So my mind revives the picture of nature. While here I stand, now suddenly he comes back to the present. So after many years he has visited that place, river. So while here I stand, not only with a sense of present pleasure, but with pleasing thoughts that in this moment there is life and food for future years. This is one of the very beautiful ideas by Wordsworth. He says, at present I stand in front of nature, in front of river, in front of mountains. This gives me happiness at present, not only at present, it gives me food for the future. So here the poet says a man can relive his life when he goes back to nature, and it gives him strength to live happily in the future also. And so I dare to hope, I believe, though change, no doubt, from what I was when first I came among these hills like a roe. Then he recalls how he came, how he visited this place as a small and unformed person. Roe means egg. Egg means unformed here. So I bounded over the mountains. As a small boy, I was leaping, jumping, going here and there in the mountains by the sides of the deep rivers. So the river refers to river Wye and the lonely streams. So here suddenly he is thinking how he was when he visited these places as a small boy. Whenever nature led, more like a man flying from something that he dreads, that one who sought the thing he loved, more like a man. So it is the simile. So who is led like a man flying from something that he dreads than one who sought the thing he loved. So it is very interesting. So when we go into nature, though we like nature, sometimes it will be terrific. All of a sudden, if you are left alone in the deep forest in the night, you will be afraid. You'll be afraid of the wild animals, insects. So like that, it say, flying from something that he dreads than one who sought the thing he loved. Of course, nature has the power to give you everything. For nature, then the coarser pleasure. So coarser pleasure, basic coarse means rough. Nature has the power to give the pleasures. So basic pleasures of my boyish days and their glad animal movements. So animal movements, see, as a grown-up person, if you walk in the street, you'll walk naturally. But if you happen to see a small child of 5 or 6 walking in the street, so if the child happens to see a small stone, it will take the stone and throw somewhere. If there is a small plant, it will stamp over it like that. So that is animal movement all gone by. So when I was a young boy, when I came here, I had animal pleasures and coarser pleasure and animal movements. So animal movements here, a movement like an animal. So it is a metaphor. So now I am formed. Earlier I was rogue. right? Unformed. Now I am grown up. I cannot paint what then I was. He says I couldn't exactly recall what I was as a young boy. The sounding cataract, the waterfall. Cataract means waterfall. So in the previous poem also it was used. Haunted me like a passion, like a passion. So it is again a simile. The tall rock, the mountain, and the deep and gloomy wood, their colors and their forms were then to me an appetite. Of course, he says. So, what were the poet's appetite? The waterfall, the rock, the mountain, the wood, the forest, everything that was found in nature was an appetite. So you know what is the meaning of appetite? Appetizer, we know so appetizer helps you to eat more. Like that, his spirits are appetited by the presence of nature, a feeling and a love that had no need of a remoter charm. So the feeling of love need not have great things. The simple things that are found in nature can create that charm in your life by thoughts supplied, nor any interest unborrowed from the eye. So here, whatever you happen to see in nature, so that is enough to feed you. You don't need other happiness. That time is past. But the poet says, they were the good old times. And all its aching joys are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. So aching joys, so the literary device oxymoron. When two opposite words are put together, that can be aching joys. If you refer to the literary devices, so aching joy is considered as an oxymoron, because ache pain, joy happiness, aching joys. When you are with nature, you are happy and you are almost dreadful because of its wilderness. So that's why the poet says aching joys, oxymoron, are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. Dizzy, so just enticing, giddy. So rapturous happiness. Now I don't feel those dizzy happiness of nature, happiness caused by nature when I was a young boy. Not for this faint eye, nor moan nor murmur, other gifts have followed. But though I did not feel now like a child, but I have gained other happiness. I have gained other gifts. What are the other gifts of nature? For such loss I would believe abundant recompense. So the nature of nature is, so when I was young, nature gave me different kinds of pleasures. Now I don't feel such pleasures, but I have abundant other pleasures. Abundant means more, abundant other pleasures. What are they? For I have learned to look on nature not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still sad music of humanity, still sad music of humanity, nor harsh nor great. So now look at that. So what are the other things I have? So thoughtless, as in the hour of thoughtless youth. So when I was young, I did not have any thought, right? As a young boy, so I did not have thought. That's why it's given as thoughtless youth. But hearing often, but now I hear the sad music of humanity, nor harsh nor grating. So it is not harsh or it is not satisfying, though of ample power to chasten and subdue. So what is the thing? So nature has the power to subdue or chasten or purify the problems of human beings. Human beings exhibit sad music. Human beings have problem. So nature has the power to purify those problems and subdue its effect. Subdue means reduce. and I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts. So very beautifully the poet says, and I have felt a presence that disturbs me. So I feel the presence. Whose presence is pointed out here? Presence here, it's a nature's presence, where once you visited a natural place like this, a place of beauty of nature, that is present always inside you, that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts. Please make a note of it. Joy of elevated high feelings. So once you live closer with nature, definitely your spirit is elevated to the higher level. A sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused. So it is not only elevated, it is sublime, divine, of something far more, far deeply interfused. Interfused, fused means, so you can say joined. So when you live closer to nature, definitely your thoughts are elevated. You have sublime thought. It goes deeper, deeper into your heart. Whose dwelling is the light of setting suns. So now he describes so many things that can give you happiness in nature. Whose dwelling is, so where is that? Where is that happiness living? Where you can find the nature? Whose dwelling is that happiness is found in the light of setting suns. Of course, if you happen to see the sun rise and the sun set, you will feel happy. And the round ocean and the living air, of course, in the ocean and air and the blue sky and in the mind of man. So everything, so everywhere in nature you can find that happiness, and it is there in the mind of nature also. Though you do not visit nature again and again, you can relive the beauty of nature in your mind. Emotion, a movement, and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. So nature is found everywhere, in all objects, in all your thoughts. Therefore, I am still a lover of the meadows and the woods and mountains. That's the reason even today I am in my relatively grown up age, I am still the lover of meadows, the grassland, the woods, the forest, and the mountains, the hills, and all that we behold from this green earth, of all the mighty world of eye and ear. So what is the mighty world of eye? So here whatever we see, so that is we, from that only, through our eyes we get the beauty and power of nature. And ear, so what do we see, what do we hear? We can get the mighty power of nature, both what they half create and what perceive. So it is a beautiful idea by Wordsworth. See, when we go to a natural scenery, how do we enjoy nature? By seeing and listening. But that is half created. That means human beings do not have the power to enjoy nature 100%, because we are able to, our eyes and ears half create nature, and what we perceive, so we can perceive something through our eyes. For example, if your eyes, see, if you go to a hilly region, you can see up to a few kilometers if you stand at the top, but beyond that 2 kilometers also, then there are so many beautiful things. That's why the poet says our eyes and ears half create what is found in nature. Well pleased to recognize in nature and the language of the sense the anchor of my purest thoughts. So here nature purifies my thoughts also, the nurse, the guide, right? So poet Wordsworth gives so many roles to nature. Nature is my nurse, nature is my guide, the guardian of my heart and soul of all my moral being. The poet seems to say, I am good, I am a little bit with some morality, that is because of nature. Nor, perchance, if I were not this taught, should I the more suffer my genial spirits to decay? The poet expresses a sense of gratitude here. If I was not taught by nature, my soul should have suffered. I revived, I maintained some good morality in me because nature taught me, nature nursed me. For thou art with me here upon the banks of this fair river, though my dearest friend, though my nature is my dearest friend, my dear, dear friend, my dear, dear friend. It is a repetition. And in see, please try to differentiate the two terms, repetition and anaphora. Repetition, the repetition of same word successively, next to next. Whereas anaphora, the repetition of same word or phrase in the successive clauses. So here it is a repetition, and in the voice I catch the language of my former heart. So what is the language of my former heart? That is the how the he was able to communicate with nature and read my former pleasures in the shooting lights of thy wild eyes. So here the poet says, of course, when I was young, I was able to enjoy nature 100%, and that is the way he is trying to convey. So now by reliving that moment, by recalling those past, my happiness is sustained. Oh, yet a little while may I behold in thee what I was once, my dear, dear sister. So here we understand the poet is not alone. The poet is with his sister Dorothy. And this prayer I make knowing that. So at present, the poet says, I am making a prayer. What is that? Nature never did betray the heart that loved her. So this is oft repeated and quoted line in this poem. Nature never did betray the heart that loved her. So here nature is personified, since the use of her conveys it is personified. At the same time, so everlasting line, ever quoted and remembered line, nature never did betray. So if you surrender yourself to nature, nature will never betray you. It is her privilege. So it is the nature of nature through all the years of this our life to lead from joy to joy. So what is the role of nature? What does nature give us? So nature makes us happy. So from that joy it leads to next level of happiness, for she can so inform, because nature has that power within her. The mind that is within us, so impressed with quietness and beauty, and so feed with lofty thoughts. So nature feed us with good thoughts, lofty, big, but here we can consider it as good thoughts, that neither evil tongues, rash judgments, nor the sneers of selfish men, nor greetings where no kindness is. So here he says, nature is filling our mind, nature fills our mind with good thoughts. What are the things we will not have? We will not evil tongue, that will not talk ill of others, we will not jump into conclusion, we will not scold, we will not behave like selfish people. So nor greetings where no kindness. So here we will not behave like kindless men, nor all the dreary intercourse of daily life. We will not have anything that is related to abnormal person's life shall ever prevail against us or disturb our cheerful faith that all which we behold is full of blessings. So when we live closer to nature, we will not have anything negative. Even the thought will be positive, our brain will be, our mind will be filled with good thoughts, because nature is our mother, as he said earlier. Nature is our nurse, nature is our guide. Therefore, let the moon shine on thee in the solitary walk. So go into nature. So let the moon shine on thee. That means in the night, in the forest, you walk, you take solitary, you walk alone. And let the misty mountain winds be free to blow against thee. So when there is misty mountain that is covered with mist, at that time when it blows air, it will be cool. You walk into the cold air. And in after years, so if you do so, after many years, in future, when these wild ecstasies shall be matured into a sober pleasure, so later when you have problem, you can recall all these things. Sober pleasure, sad pleasure. So here there is a nature of human being. Whenever we think of our school days, for example, we feel happy, right? So here like that, when you go into nature now, so when you recall that pleasurable moment, it will give you happiness. You can relive that happy moments. When the mind shall be a mansion for all lovely form. If you fill your mind with nature now, later it will be a mansion for all lovely forms. So because you can relive all those past beautiful moments. So it is a metaphor. Your mind is compared to a mansion. Thy memory be as a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies. So if you fill your mind with, fill your thought with beautiful memories of nature, so later you can feel the harmony inside your mind. How then, if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy will thou remember me? And these my exhortations. Exhortations refers to something, giving an order to do something. So here, so whenever if you feel, so everything it is on if condition. So whenever, so if at present, if you fill your mind with good thoughts of nature, later whenever you feel solitude, whenever you feel alone, whenever you are afraid, whenever you undergo pain and grief, right, at that time healing thoughts of tender joy will come to your mind, and those good things will chase away the present problems from your life. Nor perhaps, if I should be where I no more can hear thy voice, nor catch from thy wild eyes these gleams of past existence. So when even sometimes, even if the problem is more, if you are not able to recall the nature, but the gleams of past existence, so that is the great nature. So the idea of nature will be crossing in your mind. Will thou then forget that on the banks of this delightful stream? Even if you are not able to recall the nature, so if you have problem, if you have other difficulties in your life, come to this river. So which river? It is the river Why, banks of this delightful stream, We stood together, and that I, so long a worshipper of nature. The poet calls himself as a worshipper of nature. The poet says, So my visits to the woods, forest and nature is enough to tackle my future problem in life. I hope you get the point. I have sufficient input from nature because of my constant wood. That is enough to rectify all my future problems. But perhaps if I do not solve, or if you are not able to recall nature and solve your problem, just come to River Y. Take a walk. Your problems will be solved. That's why the poet says, I am a worshipper of nature. We stood together, so we, the poet and Dorothy, sister, and that I so long a worshipper of nature, either came unwearied in that service. So without any second thought, I'll come back to nature. Rather say with warmer love, oh, what far deeper zeal with of whole zeal of holier love. So once I come back to nature, so my recognition and my joy will be unbound, and I will say deeper zeal, deeper happiness, which is holier, which is holy. I will live again. I will relive again. Nor wilt thou then forget that after many wanderings, many years of absence. So I have come here after many years of absence. These steep woods and lofty cliffs and this green pastoral landscape were to me more dear both for themselves and for thy sake. The poet concludes the poem saying that, so I may come here after many years, but who the things found here, that is the woods, cliffs, landscape, everything is more dear, more both for themselves, and not only they are closer to me, like that I am also closer to them. So as nature is a friend to nature also considers me as their friend, both for themselves and for thy sake. So thy sake, so that is he is addressing the sister. So here to conclude this poem, the poet says, I am the friend of nature, and I, as I consider nature as friend, nature also considers me as my friend. Dear friends, this is one of the very beautiful poems because it is a meditative lyric. The poet writes this poem in memory of his visit to River Wye and the related places. So here he's recalling the nature, and he concludes that nature has the power to heal all the wounds that we survive, that we get because of this life. So it is better whenever we have problem, we have to turn to nature. That is the suggestion given by Wordsworth. Thank you.